I have seen situations where a couple are, a couple is sitting in a car, not doing anything, and a police officer starts to harass them. I have seen situations where a couple are in a hotel room, and both are consenting adults, and the police is harassing them. If you are scared, they can smell it, they can sense it, and that is how they will harass you. So if you're not scared, then they don't have the audacity to even speak further on that particular subject. They will move on. The rights of a citizen to book a room, consenting adults to book a room, as long as they are following the rules, they have not given any fabricated document to the
Yes,
hotel,
very important.
they're not underage and they've given wrong documents. So as long they are consenting adults and they have not done anything which is on the wrong side of law, nobody can stop them. Under that particular act, a police officer who takes law in his own hands can be punished, and it is he who will be facing the heat rather than the person who's on the wrong side of law. फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में काफी हद तक उनका इन्वॉल्वमेंट था उस जमाने में 2005 तक.
Right.
तो उस टाइम पे सिचुएशंस आए थे जहाँ पे मुझे भी कॉल्स आए थे, एंड आई हैव हैंडल देम वेरी वेल. एंड बिकॉज
You have got threat calls from the underworld.
हमको नहीं थ्रेट करता कोई. 99% of the law enforcement agencies do not know the law the way it's supposed to be known. If you know these basic laws, then no police officer, and if you tell them that these are the laws, so even he will not dare do anything which would cause you injustice or which would prejudice your rights or liberties under any of the laws.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about creators, when we talk about people who matter, हम लोग ये जो celebrity word है, ये celebrity word हम लोग often use करते हैं for actors, for directors, for chefs, for a lot of professionals. But celebrity lawyer का जो concept है, ये हर कोई ये फंडा crack नहीं कर पाता है. It's not that कि उन्होंने purposely किया था, but हो गया because of the vast body of work that he has. I have with me the wonderful, amazing. Advocate Rizwan Siddiquee sir, thank you so much sir for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure. मुझे बताइए sir, like let's start from the basics. Like I spoke about the fact in your introduction itself that celebrity lawyer. Like if I Google Rizwan Siddiquee on Google, there are multiple articles etc. that refers to you as a celebrity lawyer. राइट मुझे बताओ ये कब से ये वाला टैग आपके साथ कब से जुड़ना चालू हुआ बिकॉज आई एम श्योर यू बीन वर्किंग फॉर सो मेनी इयर्स बट ये एंगल कब से चालू होने लगा बिकॉज आई एम श्योर पीपल who do not have any who are perhaps not your clients as well they recognize you तो वो एक पॉपुलैरिटी फंडा तो है
See, even before I had completed my law, I was always moving around with celebrities. So they've been a part of my friend circle. I have known them since the time I was a teenager. So eventually, when I graduated and I finished my law, the same people, the same friend circle became my clients. And that is a time when the country was going through an evolution, and events industry, especially per se, was going through a drastic change. Documentations had started coming in. As a matter of fact, I was the person who insisted on documentation. I was the lawyer for Viscraft at a time when there were no documentations.
oh
I did all the IFA award agreements in the initial period, and that is how it started. Basically, I was drawing up agreements for all top film stars in the early 2000, and even as a matter of fact, in the year 2000, it all started. So it's almost been a journey of nearly 25 years now, after 1999, when everything was getting into place. So since I've been a part of this journey, and I have been a part of their inner circle, as a matter of fact, they are also my friends, not only my clients. So I was representing a whole variety of people from the film industry, right from script writers to artists to directors to actors to financiers to even studios, and even as a matter of fact, the Kamal Amrohi studios. I was a lawyer for them for almost 12 years. So so eventually people started recognizing me because of my connect with the film industry, and maybe that tag of being a celebrity lawyer came along with that particular thing as a perk, maybe because I was moving around in their circles. So maybe because of that, I may be known as a
But जो
celebrity
है
lawyer.
वो है, फंडा तो है. So you always had that connect, and of course that works in your favor and also with the clients that you have over the years. मुझे बताइए सर, जो advocate word है ना, like a lot of people sometimes वो कहते हैं ना, like पुलिस वालों के टाइम पे ये यूज होता है. आई थिंक in case of advocates and वकील as well, people say कि यार उनकी ना तो दोस्ती अच्छी होती है ना तो दुश्मनी. So I'm sure despite being such a soft, like मैं अभी सुन रहा था उनके ऑफिस में सर सबको बेटे बेटे करके, सो दैट स्पीक्स अबाउट द वार्मथ दैट यू हैव एज ए ह्यूमन बीइंग, कि आप सबको वैसे अफेक्शनेटली बोलते हो. बट स्टिल वकील टैग के साथ एक डर इंसान का यूजुअली लगा रहता है. डू यू सी दैट चेंजिंग मे बी?
See, since I'm largely known as a criminal lawyer, people largely know me because of my practice on the criminal side, but it's not that I do only criminal matters. I per se do a lot of documentation and also civil matters, NCLT matters, family court matters. As a matter of fact, we do almost everything under the sun. And as you said, rightly said, जो ऑफिस के जो लोग हैं, वो उनको बेटा इसीलिए बोलता हूँ क्योंकि मैं अपने बच्चों से ज़्यादा उनके साथ रहता हूँ. वो दे आर अ पार्ट ऑफ माई एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली एंड एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट वो भी मेरे साथ अपने फैमिली से ज़्यादा रहते हैं. कभी कभी तो यहीं सो जाते हैं ऑफिस में, सुबह हमको भागना पड़ता है ऑफिस ऑफिस छोड़ के डायरेक्टली खाली नहाने के लिए घर जाते हैं, देन कोर्ट में लैंड करते हैं. So we are like a very close knit family. So yes, I do not take anybody like an employee. They are like a family, and as a matter of fact, my staff, some of them have been with me for 20 years and more. And the admin staff, especially, a lot of people have finished more than 20, 22 years with me, their association with me. Yeah, young lawyers come, go, they move on, they start their own practice, but the important admin staff has always been there with me.
Just one second. तो मुझे सर बताइए एक चीज, एंड आई रियली रिस्पेक्ट दैट फैक्ट, बिकॉज व्हाट आई बिलीव इज कि द ट्रू नेचर ऑफ अ ह्यूमन बीइंग कम्स आउट व्हेन फ्रॉम द बिहेवियरल पैटर्न दैट दे हैव विद द पीपल दे वर्क विद, राइट? सो जिनके स्टाफ अगर इतने सालों से रहते हैं, so it speaks about the person कि you're very easy going and chill to work with, and of course that's a great trait. मुझे बताइए सर, in today's time, there's a lot of clutter. I mean, in terms of say lawyers bully ye bully, very few are able to establish their niche or stamp their authority the way that perhaps you have done, but slowly with time people do it. What are the main struggles and challenges that perhaps a lawyer in today's time, especially the kind of cases that you handle, face? Because there are expectations, कभी कभी गलत एक्सपेक्टेशंस भी होते हैं कि चलो कोई बात नहीं, मे बी आई एम रॉन्ग, आई एम ऑन द रॉन्ग साइड, बट I'll get a top-notch lawyer like Rizwan Siddiquee, and maybe he'll help me out. What are the challenges that you face? Is it an overburdening situation of expectations? क्या होता है? What are the challenges that you face the most?
See, for people whom I'm known to, either as a friend or maybe as in a professional capacity, I have to represent them in various matters. And of course, not that I'm not convinced with their cases. I'm
Yeah.
100% convinced with their cases, and that is how we give our best to ensure that my clients who are being represented by me do not lose face value at any given point in time, and they succeed in whatever they are, going to achieve in the courts. And also what I ensure is that I do not like to burden the courts. I try and ensure that I take least matters to the court. It's not that I like filing cases in the court and I wait for the courts to deliver justice, because unfortunately our courts are so overburdened that I cannot take any, each and every single small matter to the courts and wait for them to adjudicate on them. So there are ways and means where we position ourselves in such a way that sometimes, there are criminal cases filed, there are civil cases filed, and then eventually when people feel the heat, they come to a particular point of settlement and things get settled. Of course, I am always in favor of settling things rather than fighting and dragging matters in the court.
Yes.
So that is always what my endeavor is, because I'm not a typical, litigation lawyer whose focus is billing and taking and dragging matters in the court. I do not do all that.
यही जो चीज आपने बोला, this is another reason why people, it's and it, I tell you, the thought process is quite same for even doctors as well. I mean, कि यार हॉस्पिटल जाओगे तो डर लगता है, because doctors will suggest tests which are not perhaps needed. Similarly, in case of lawyers as well, there's this perception that yeah, dates शायद उतना जरूरत है भी नहीं, but your lawyer is perhaps doing it in such a way so that hearing और बढ़े, and hearing और बढ़ेगा तो उनके fees और बढ़ेंगे. So there are lawyers who do that as well, which is why this perception has come, you think?
Well,
Very actively.
I personally feel the way I look at my profession is that there are lawyers, who practice in particular areas and they do not want to leave their courts. Like, for example, if a lawyer is practicing in the high court only, he would not like to leave a court, that particular court, and the client from that particular court. So he will file whatever he feels that he can file in that court. It's not that he will try and persuade his client to move on another court, which would be a better court, like, for example, a criminal court.
Yeah.
And either because he does not have the ability to give that kind of an advice because his knowledge on criminal law is limited, or maybe for whatever reason. So but what I've seen is that people, when they come, like, for example, if I'm ever given cases which are being passed on to me from another lawyer, what I see is that the lawyers have always thought very limited and they have acted very limited, either because their practice is limited or maybe their knowledge is limited. But nonetheless, whatever it is, the person who faces the brunt of it and who gets punished for this is the client.
Absolutely.
And this is not something that I encourage. I would rather, ask the client, even if I'm not into that kind of a practice, I always advise my client, if I feel that there are other avenues which are better than what I'm proposing, I would advise my client to go ahead with that, and maybe even look for a good lawyer and even speak to that particular lawyer. So for me, I don't like to hold on to a client just because it is like a milking cow. I don't do that. I mean, for me, it's not that. The client has to go home happy. His work needs to get done.
This is the rarest thing that perhaps you will hear, because often for you it's a customer, it's a client, right? So you don't really want to give it away. But this is the first time that I've ever heard where a lawyer, a practicing lawyer in today's time, is actually perhaps saying to a client कि मुझसे भी ज्यादा शायद आपके इस केस के लिए ये वकील सही होंगे. So you do that. I mean, that's such a rare thing.
A lot of times, when I feel that there is a particular area which needs to be addressed and a particular court in this particular matter where I will not be comfortable going to that court, or maybe I would not like to go to that court for whatever reason, but the client's work should not suffer. So eventually the client has to go home happy, and if he feels, if the client, so basically I don't hold on to any client. And as a matter of fact, I'm probably the only lawyer who passes on the number of a client even to my juniors, and my juniors directly deal with my clients in
Wow.
my absence. So I am not that insecure lawyer who feels that so junior should not be trained, junior should not interact with the client. I do not do that. As a matter of fact, all of my juniors deal with the clients directly one on one, and it's they who lead the cases, and I encourage them to lead the cases. So this is the way they learn. This is the way that particular the confidence keeps developing even in the younger generation, because that is the way they get hands-on experience. And so this is the way I am. I mean, I'm not chasing money or chasing success or clients. I do not do that.
I believe ये जो ethical value है, this is I believe the biggest reason of your success, because कहीं ना कहीं जाके that X factor जो होता है, that is that differentiating line between success and super success, and for me that X factor is always moral values and ethics.
See, I personally feel if you are honest and if you are straight with your clients and with your juniors, you will not face a situation where somebody will really backstab. In my experience of almost 25 years, I have not faced a situation where any of my junior, maybe one or two stray incidents I will not count, but any of my juniors, yeah, my juniors in the last 25 years have done anything, something like this, which would be like backstabbing.
Wonderful, and I think that that's a great trait in itself. मुझे सर बताइए कि of course law as a subject is very vast and diverse. अगर सबको सब कुछ पता होता then सब lawyers बन जाते, ऐसा नहीं होता. But there are certain laws of course which every citizen should be knowing, and on a regular basis शायद उनको उस चीज़ का ज़रूरत हो सकता है, but शायद वो ignorance की वजह से या शायद उनको वो चीज़ पता नहीं है. Because of that reason they are perhaps being fooled by a lot of people, right? Please tell us about certain basic uh, laws which perhaps is essential for every citizen of every age group to know, say whenever they are say traveling, whenever they're out, कि ये चीज को लेके तुमको एटलीस्ट बेवकूफ नहीं बनना चाहिए just because somebody is trying to manipulate you.
See, the biggest situation that I feel that the younger crowd should know and they should be aware of are cases which fall under prevention of, the POXO cases. What is happening in these kind of cases? Young couples below the age of 18 are getting sexually involved. Yeah. And, suddenly you see the girl's father filing a case against a young boy who's below the age of 18, and then it goes before the Juvenile Justice Board. Or maybe they file a case just when the boy has turned a little above 18 and he's 19 so that he can be tried as an adult. Now, these are the cases which I feel the younger generation should be aware of, because what happens is that the parents feel that the children are their properties. And even if there's a serious love affair between two young, a boy and a girl, and the father or the mother would like to exercise his or her rights over that particular child and goes ahead and files a case, whereas the child, the girl, is not really interested in a case like this to be filed against her boyfriend whom she is madly in love with. So there are these situations which I think that younger uh, kids who are below the age of 18 or just turned 18 or just little above 18, especially when the girl is below 18, they should know. Uh, I should also make them aware that despite the laws being completely against the men, against the younger boys, the younger generation where these kind of situations may arise, fortunately so that the high courts are very clear that this may be the situation and the position under law that the boy can be tried. However, they do not try him. And so there is a little lacuna and loophole, not provision under law, but the intent of law, the intent of the legislature has been interpreted little differently by the courts. So I thought this is a situation, and these are the things which most of the younger generation, because India's got the largest population of younger generation. So I think this is a thing that needs to be addressed to the younger crowd. But I would tell them that rather do not be caught in a situation like this where you know it's going to be dangerous for you, or where you know that your entire future should not be at the mercy of somebody's case, or maybe an FIR being filed against you, because that would really ruin your future, because it's a very very tasking, you can say, thing to do, even to get a FIR cost. So rather not be in a situation like this, though the laws are there to protect, but it's not something that you should indulge in.
Absolutely, but ये जो चीज सर आपने बोला, I mean, it opens up another conversation कि we talk about consent, right? Consent is mutual thing in both cases. So say a situation is there where the girl and the boy, they are below 18, but there's consent between both of them and they have agreed to do that whatever they have indulged in. So in a situation like that, just because the girl is under 18, is her consent considered invalid if her father kind
Yes.
of finds
See,
something
there are a
against?
lot of contradictions in law. Like, for example, under Muslim law, a girl who has attained puberty, or if there is no such, you can say, evidence of puberty being attained, then the age of 15 is sufficient for a marriage under Muslim law. Yeah. So there are personal laws. Then there is another law which talks about acts of obscenity. So where the right age for marriage for a girl is 18 in India, under that Obscenity Act, you cannot give anything to that girl which is obscene if she's below the age of 20. So when the girl can get married at 18, she can't buy anything which is obscene till the time she's 20. So there are a lot of there are 4,300 acts in India, and 4,300 acts in India, and not all the acts are in sync with each other. As a matter of fact, there are so many lacunas, loopholes, overlapping acts. There's a whole lot of chaos and confusion. So therefore, if you're advised properly, if you are represented properly, if you are being, represented properly, even in the courts during the course of arguments, whether it's a bail argument or quashing argument, then these points have to be brought forward. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you in short is that if you look at one law, it may be totally against you. If you look at the other law, there'll be something contradictory. You look at the third law, it allows something else only. Yeah. So you see, there's a whole lot of chaos and whole lot of confusion. So a law for a Muslim girl is different. A law for a non-Muslim girl is different. A law for obscenity is different. A law for age of marriage is different. A law for rape is different. So everything is different.
Very interesting, and especially for people like us who are getting that knowledge from experts, I think it's all the way more interesting. Mujhe sir batao another thing which is very relevant, and you mentioned about couples as well. It's not just about couples who are below 18, even the couples who are above 18, they sometimes get harassed in different places. Like say maybe they have voluntarily gone to a hotel room, they have followed all the legal procedures like submitting their maybe national identity card or other details, and they're there because of their own mutual consent. But we still see situations in many places of the country where people just go there to harass them, maybe kind of forcefully ask their contact numbers of their parents, etc., which I don't believe is a part of their I mean, which should not be the case, but people sometimes fall under that pressure, and they sometimes give in to that situation. So ऐसे couples के लिए या फिर in general, not just couples, I mean sometimes even boys and girls in general, when they're hanging out somewhere, a lot of assumptions are being made. So what do you have to say to those boys and girls कि जिनको डर लगता है खुले में जाके घूमने के लिए या फिर ऐसे होटल में जाने के लिए, what do you have to suggest to them so that they are protected?
See, I have seen situations where a couple is sitting in a car, not doing anything, and a police officer starts to harass them. I have seen situations where a couple are in a hotel room, and both are consenting adults, and the police is harassing them. I've seen many such situations where police get into domains where they're not supposed to get into.
It's not their jurisdiction.
It's not the jurisdiction. It's not a case that they can even touch because they've not committed any crime. So the police cannot interfere in things which do not fall under the ambit of cognizable offenses. Now, none of these offenses are cognizable offenses. As a matter of fact, the police, even under the Bombay Police Act, or even under the CRPC, or even under the IPC, they cannot get into this domain at all, because in none of these cases there is any commission of cognizable offense. So even if you look at section 149 and 150 of Criminal Procedure Code, the preventive action of the police. So if the police comes and says that we are trying to prevent, there is no commission of cognizable offense. So there's no question of committing or preventing of commission. So basically, law enforcement agencies, they they actually encash fear. So it is nothing but encashing of fear. So if you are scared, they can smell it, they can sense it, and that is how they will harass you. So if you're not scared, then they don't have the audacity to even speak further on that particular subject. They will move on. So the rights of a citizen, the rights of a citizen to book a room, consenting adults to book a room, as long as they are following the rules, they have not given any fabricated document to the
Yes,
hotel,
very
they're
important.
they're not underage and they've given wrong documents. So as long they are consenting adults and they have not done anything which is on the wrong side of law, nobody can stop them.
So ऐसे situation पे, say for example, a couple is there inside a hotel room or maybe in a park or maybe in a parked car, and they're बैठे हुए, but suddenly police comes, or suddenly maybe sometimes even the localites come and harass, and because शायद वो लोग outnumber कर जाते हैं उनको, so वो डर हो जाता है, so वो बोलते हैं कि पुलिस को बुलाएंगे, तुम्हारे फैमिली का नंबर दो, ये दो वो दो। कभी कभी अगर गाड़ी में ऐसा होता है, आई हैव हर्ड सिचुएशंस में लोग गाड़ी का चाबी दे छीन लेते हैं वैसे जबरदस्ती। सो ऐसे सिचुएशंस पे कपल्स को मतलब क्या कहना क्या चाहिए उनको, व्हाट आर द थिंग्स हाउ
देखिए, as long as they're not indulging in any PDA and anything which is obscene, like for example, if they are sitting and talking, or if they are in four corners of the room and they're doing anything which is in private domain,
yes,
then both these situations where there is no such act of obscenity in public, or even if there is, it is in private domain in the four corners of the room, the police cannot come in. The police cannot come and start harassing a couple who are holding hands. They cannot come and stop a man from putting his arm around his girlfriend's shoulder. Yes, as long as there is no PDA, as long as there is no PDA, there is nothing which is called obscene, which falls under the definition of obscenity. The police cannot harass. The police cannot do anything.
बट सर ये जो ऑब्सिनिटी का है, ये आई बिलीव इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ परसेप्शन, लाइक व्हाट माइट बी ऑब्सीन टू यू might not be obscene to me. So for example, say a couple is out there, and in today's time we see kissing is a form of affection, right? So say if a couple is kissing in public, if someone is troubled by that visual, And if they say, for example, reach out to the local police, see what this couple is, but they are just perhaps kissing, they are just maybe hugging and kissing, does that come under obscenity?
See, any action, if it would tantamount to arousing the other party, the member of a public, then it would amount to an act of obscenity. So if you're doing anything which would titillate the opposite party, titillate or maybe arouse the other party, then it would be an act of obscenity.
So basically, you're saying that if a couple is kissing in public and somebody says that this is kind of creating an arousal in me,
Yeah.
the police can come in and they can arrest the people.
Then there's not a case of arrest, but of course they can,
File a case?
they can file, yeah, they can file a normal complaint. Yes.
Okay,
So basically, the Supreme Courts have defined what is obscenity, and even the Act is very clear on that. So degrees are not, defined. It is the way the entire thing is done. It is the act. So basically, if I have my hands inside somebody's clothes, or if I'm doing something which would tantamount to be obscene, then it would amount to obscenity. So anything which can be done in the open public,
yes,
you can do that. Anything which is not regular and can be done in open public without attracting attention is
correct,
something which is not regular.
absolutely.
You see, so that is the key.
So there's a thin line of
There's a
difference,
thin
and
line.
the lines are perhaps very blur, but you need to read in between the lines and
It's the
understand.
logic.
It's a logic. You have
It's
to
the
understand.
logic.
उतना समझ सबको है, and they should act accordingly. मुझे बताइए सर कि another area of concern which a lot of citizens on a regular basis faces being harassed by the traffic police. Say for example, वो जो लाइन होता है, अब लाइन के आगे चले गए, ऑन स्पॉट फाइन एक्सेट्रा. वो ऑन स्पॉट फाइन भी लोगों को डाउट होता है कि कितना पुलिस के पास एक्चुअल में जाता है या किसी पुलिस वाले के पर्सनल जेब में जाता है. एंड देन पुलिस थ्रेट की तुमको थाने लेके जाएंगे, ये लेके जाएंगे. समटाइम्स दे टेक अवे द कीज ऑफ द कार एज वेल, और मे बी द बाइक, टू व्हीलर्स, पेपर्स को लेके बहुत सारे. सो व्हाट आर द थिंग्स, अगर मेरे पास इतने डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं तो ये डॉक्यूमेंट्स अगर नहीं भी कैरी करूं तो भी द पुलिस कांट काइंड ऑफ लाइक हैरेस मी फॉर नॉट कैरिंग अ सर्टेन डॉक्यूमेंट. व्हाट आर द थिंग्स दैट पीपल हु आर कम्यूटर्स, in cars, bikes, they should always keep in mind so that the traffic police cannot harass them, and agar harass karte, how do they come out of that situation?
See, the Motor Vehicle Act has gone through a major change now. Okay, so I think everybody should read that Motor Vehicle Act and the changes. But the
When
fact
has the
remains,
change happened, like
I think it's been about 3 or 4 years now.
3 or 4 years?
3 or 4 years. So it's gone through a, you can say, major change, an overall change, you can say. And but the fact remains that whatever the change is, it is to do with the penal provisions. That means the punishment, meaning not the jail term and all,
Yeah.
mainly to do with the money.
Yeah.
So whatever was earlier maybe 50 rupees, now that has become 500 rupees or 5,000 rupees, so mainly to do with all of that. But yes, the fact remains that the RTO, the road traffic officer, transport officer, cannot impound your vehicle like that. They cannot just come and impound your vehicle just because some papers are missing or something is not there. So, the rights to impound a vehicle or the right to take away the key would tantamount to taking law in his own hands. So, as a matter of fact, Section 166 of the Indian Penal Code, and there's one more edition, 166A. Now, 166A is a little different thing, so I will only stick to 166 of Indian Penal Code, where it has always been there since 1860, if I'm not mistaken. And under that particular act, a police officer who takes law in his own hands can be punished, and it is he who will be facing the heat rather than the person who's on the wrong side of law. So the police officers are not judges. They cannot talk law. They cannot take law in their own hands. So I think little awareness, understanding of all these sections where the police officer are also duty bound to follow the law. They're not above the law. So if you know these basic laws, then no police officer, and if you tell them that these are the laws, so even he will not dare do anything which would cause you injustice or which would prejudice your rights or liberties under any of the laws.
बट सर मैं अभी आपको एक सिचुएशन बताता हूँ. आई सॉ अ वीडियो ऑन यूट्यूब मे बी 1 year बैक व्हेन देयर वाज अ पर्सन अ सिटीजन, अ लॉ अबाइडिंग सिटीजन या व्हाटएवर जो भी, बट उसको लॉ के बारे में पता था एंड ही वाज मेंशनिंग द सेक्शंस टू द कॉप्स. बट परहैप्स द कॉप टुक इट टू हिज ईगो. इज लाइक कि मैं खुद पुलिस वाला हूँ, तू मेरे को कानून सिखा रहा है, ऐसे करके चल लेके चलता हूँ मैं तेरे को थाने. Now the situation is that we know about the ground reality that these are the laws and तुमको कुछ कर नहीं सकते. But again, just like every other community, the police is also a community, right? So it is assumed that अगर वो पुलिस स्टेशन के पास अगर आप पुलिस के बारे में भी कंप्लेन करोगे, then the other cops are also naturally or maybe kind of tempted to support their person more rather than the and ऐसे situations होते भी है, right? So ऐसे situation पे क्या करना चाहिए?
सी ऐसे सिचुएशन में क्या होता है कि आपने एक लॉ बोल दिया और बंद कर दिया और आपको बाकी के लॉज नहीं मालूम है तो प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा. So you either be a master of law,
Or you
meaning you
don't
should,
keep quiet.
or you keep quiet. See, because what would happen is that I wouldn't know, I don't know exactly the situation and what provisions of law were told to the police officer in that particular case.
Yeah.
But the fact remains is that 99% of the law enforcement agencies do not know the law the way it's supposed to be known. They know very limited laws. As a matter of fact, even IPS officers, once they have passed and once they get into practice meaning they start being a part of the system,
Yeah.
they don't really utilize the laws that they have studied during the course. So their entire experience after the studies is quite different. Unlike us, we study 18 subjects. Out of those 18 subjects, 60% of the subjects are useless for us. But there are 4,300 acts. So we need to keep studying all throughout. We need to keep educating ourselves all throughout. Unlike other, like these law enforcement agencies, they study limited, and when they start practicing, meaning they start utilizing the knowledge, they forget everything that they've studied. For us, it's the other way around.
You kind of get your hands even more पक्का on the job. सर मुझे बताइए कि ऐसे सिचुएशन पे से फॉर एग्जांपल a citizen has kind of dealt with that harassment from a maybe a traffic police and वो जाके वहाँ के लोकल पुलिस स्टेशन पे उस पुलिस ऑफिसर के बारे में कंप्लेन करता है. इज द पुलिस स्टेशन पे जो ऑफिसर्स हैं वहाँ पे आर दे बाउंड टू लीगली फाइल दैट कंप्लेंट?
See, there is something called police complaint authority, which are established in all the states. So आप पुलिस का कंप्लेंट पुलिस के अगेंस्ट पुलिस के डिपार्टमेंट में करोगे तो आप वो कभी लेंगे नहीं. आपको पुलिस कंप्लेंट अथॉरिटी में फाइल करना चाहिए.
Very important, huh? Because the natural urge to file a complaint is to go to the police, but then nahi, this is the real information.
So there is something called police complaint authority. You can file a case with the police complaint authority. Then there is also something called what do you call human rights commission.
Yes.
You can take it before them. So there are various avenues which are open, because the minute you take it to another police officer, so he's not going to do anything about it.
देखो समझने वाली बात है एंड समझदार के लिए इशारा ही काफी है. दैट्स हाउ इट
डिपार्टमेंटल
इज.
इंक्वायरी करा सकते हो आप उसके ऊपर, मगर
हाँ पर डिपार्टमेंटल इंक्वायरी
मगर
में भी क्या
उसके लिए फिर आपको कोई तेज लॉयर पकड़ना पड़ेगा.
सर के पास आ सकते हो. बट मुझे सर बताइए कि as far as the system is concerned, we all like to use this word system to label everything in under one umbrella, but as far as the system is concerned, one thing that a lot of people are kind of have become used to is that कि वो समझते हैं कि ये system का ही हिस्सा हो गया, वो है bribery. In a lot of situations, if there's any verification or if there's anything that's required from the police's end, it's almost like become an unofficial practice कि अरे यार थोड़ा बहुत पैसा नहीं देंगे उनको तो काम आगे नहीं बढ़ाएंगे. And it can be anything. It can be something like a passport verification or any other document जहाँ पे पुलिस का stage verification is important. And a lot of police officers, they do it as well. Like I have seen it in my case. A lot of people have seen जहाँ पे they will perhaps not say that, I mean they will not use that word कि आप directly मुझे पैसे दे, but they say good luck के लिए दे दीजिए, दे दीजिए. So these are genuine things that happen in our country, and because सामने वाले को भी पता है कि यार पुलिस वाला वो चीज क्लियर करेगा, तो वो भी they also kind of give into that situation. कौन मगजमारी पालेगा, थोड़ा सा पैसे देके खत्म करते हैं. How do you see this situation? Because and why are police officers perhaps not scared? अगर कोई सामने वाले से कंप्लेन कर दे तो क्या होता है उस सिचुएशन में?
देखिए, मैं आपको 2 कदम और आगे जाता हूँ. ये आप पुलिस की बात कर रहे हैं, मैं कोर्ट्स की बात कर रहा हूँ. फॉरगेट पुलिस ऑफिसर्स, फॉरगेट लॉ एनफोर्समेंट एजेंसीज जहाँ पे ब्राइबरी बहुत होता है. कोर्ट्स में भी अगर आप जाएँगे, तो अगर आप एक सर्टिफाइड ट्रू कॉपी के डिपार्टमेंट में जाएँगे और बोलेंगे कॉपी निकाल के दो जो आपका राइट है, वहाँ पे भी वो बगैर आपसे पैसे लिए हुए काम नहीं करेंगे. तो ये सिचुएशन बहुत होता है. बट मेरा ऑफिस इसमें बहुत ट्रेंड है। मैं किसी को भी पैसे नहीं देता हूँ। मैं अपनी खुशी से दे दूं, उनको दिवाली के लिए दे दूं, कुछ
दैट्स अ
मिठाई दे
डिफरेंट
दूं,
थिंग।
हाँ दैट्स अ डिफरेंट थिंग, बट मैं किसी को भी पैसे नहीं देता हूँ। और मेरा जो यू कैन से द होल सपोर्ट सिस्टम मेरे ऑफिस का है, वो सब उसमें इतने माहिर हो गए हैं कि हम वो बंदे के अगेंस्ट कंप्लेन कर देंगे, मगर हम उसको पैसे नहीं देते। तो काम कराने आना चाहिए आपको बगैर पैसे दिए हुए। तो अगर आप खुद ही लोगों को पैसे देना चालू कर दें, छोटे छोटे चीजों से लेके कि ले भाई फोटो कॉपिंग का पैसा ले लो, इसका पैसा ले लो, उसका पैसा ले लो,
राइट,
तो उनको लत लग जाती है,
एंड
आदत
बिकम द
लग जाती
स्टैंडर्ड।
है। या तो ये कोर्ट रूम्स में भी मैंने देखा है कि आप एक केस जीत के आप बाहर निकलते कोर्ट रूम के, जो कोर्ट के जो दरबान होते हैं वो आपके सामने हाथ फैला देते हैं कि सर हमारा, जैसे उन्होंने लड़ाई की है केस में। तो ये बहुत होता है, मगर ऑफ कोर्स उसको मैं ब्राइबरी नहीं बोलूंगा, बिकॉज वो उम्मीद करते बख्शिश।
करेक्ट।
पर ये भी जो तरीका है, ये मुझे somehow आई डोंट लाइक इट, बिकॉज ये जो हाथ फैलाने वाला जो काम है, या फिर रुबाब दिखाने वाला काम है, या काम नहीं करने वाला जो चीज है, जो हरकत है, सब गलत है। आप अपना काम कीजिए, आपको जिसकी तनख्वाह मिलती है आप वो कीजिए, आप ईमानदारी से कीजिए। आपको लोग मिलेंगे, बहुत सारे लोग मिलेंगे,
जो खुशी से देंगे।
खुशी से देंगे, और एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट उसमें से मैं ही लीड करता हूँ सबसे ज्यादा, मगर आप मांगेंगे तो कभी नहीं दूंगा। तो ये मेरे सामने कई दफा होता है कि केस आप जीत के बाहर निकल रहे हो, वो हाथ फैला देते हैं, मैं कभी नहीं देता हूँ। वो कोई फोटो कॉपिंग करवाना है अर्जेंट, कोई मैटर, कोई कुछ भी करवाना है, डिपार्टमेंटल वर्क है, तो पैसे मैं कभी नहीं देता हूँ। बट काम करवाने आता है मुझे कैसे करवाते
But again, sir, I mean, if I talk about my audience, I mean, I every up, you are a practicing lawyer and you are an expert in this department, right? So you know कि अगर आपके साथ ऐसा कोई करेगा तो what are the things that you need to do? But say a general citizen जो शायद पुलिस स्टेशन जा रहा है पासपोर्ट वेरिफिकेशन के लिए, उससे अगर कोई पुलिस वाला पैसे मांगता है कि नहीं इतने मेरे को दो तुम तब जाके तुम्हारा क्लियर कराऊंगा वरना नहीं कराऊंगा,
हैं।
सो ऐसे सिचुएशन पे वो क्या करे, वो उसके पास क्या ऑप्शन है अगर इफ ही डजंट वांट टू इंडल्ज इन दैट?
देखिए, मैं आपको बताऊं, इसमें दो तरीके के लोग होते हैं। एक तरीका वो है, एक लोग जो कैटेगरी के हैं, वो एड्रेस देते थे, वो एड्रेस पे वो रहते ही नहीं है। हाँ, तो वो पासपोर्ट वेरिफिकेशन में ऐसे एड्रेस डालते हैं जो एड्रेस पे वो मौजूद ही नहीं है। और फिर पुलिस ऑफिसर को भी पता है, वो जो ऑफिसर आता है वेरिफिकेशन के लिए, उसको भी पता है कि ये बंदा तो इधर रहता ही नहीं है। अब वो वेरिफिकेशन उसको उसी एड्रेस पे करवाना है, तो जाहिर सी बात है, फिर दोनों तरफ से उम्मीदें जो होती हैं वो
करेक्ट।
उसी हिसाब से होती हैं। बट दूसरा सिचुएशन यहाँ पे, जहाँ पे सब कुछ ठीक है,
यस।
एवरीथिंग इज परफेक्ट, देयर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग। सो वैसे सिचुएशन में भी पुलिस वाला उम्मीद करता ही है। अभी
एग्जैक्टली।
आपको टैकल करना है, आप कैसे टैकल करते हो। सो बेसिकली इफ so it's all about your body language, it's all about the way you conduct yourself, the way you talk, the way you behave, the way you position yourself. As a matter of fact, now, I mean, I've been into practice for 25 years, but even when I was pretty young, so I'm talking about in the initial first to second year of my practice, I've never faced situations where people looked at me and thought कि इससे पैसे निकल आएंगे। मुझे कभी किसी ने मांगा ही नहीं है। एज अ मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट, आई एम क्वाइट सरप्राइज्ड कि पता नहीं शक्ल पे लिखा हुआ है मेरे शक्ल पे कि जिस तरीके से बात करता हूँ, कभी भी मेरा काम कहीं अटका नहीं है। टचवुड काम मेरा हमेशा हो जाता है। कभी मेरे जूनियर्स जाते हैं और मेरा स्टाफ जाता है, उनसे नहीं होता है तो उनको मैंने ट्रेन कर दिया है कि भाई कैसे
कैसे
किया
करना
जाता है, हाँ।
है?
पर मेरे साथ में कभी नहीं हुआ है
Yeah,
पर्सनली।
yeah. Amazing.
हम्म।
Sir, another aspect that I really want to tap, and it's a very real thing, especially in the 90s and I believe 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, but 90s में specifically, I mean, Bombay was known for underworld, right? I mean, हर एक कोई दिन किसी बिल्डर को या कोई प्रोड्यूसर को थ्रेट कॉल आ जाता था कि तुम इतने पैसे प्रोटेक्शन मनी दो, then you can perhaps continue the thing. We of course everybody knows about the tragic incident that happened with Gulshan Kumar ji, where he refused to kind of give in to the pressure and whatever happened has happened unfortunately. So you think ऐसे situation पे the clients, the builders, एक होता है कि वो पुलिस कंप्लेन करते हैं, and second perhaps the second lot of people whom they come to and resort for help is our lawyers, because they know how to guide them the right way. कभी कभी पुलिस भी शायद मिले हुए रहते हैं, so the lawyers will always guide them the right way कि तुम ये करो so that तुम बचे रहो. So आपके साथ कभी आपके इतने 25 years is a long time. Have you ever had any kind of experience where say one of your clients has faced maybe a threat call from the underworld, and they are absolutely very afraid and fear, मतलब डरे हुए हैं, but आपने उनको गाइड किया कि कैसे उस सिचुएशन को डील करना चाहिए, ऐसा कभी हुआ है आपके साथ?
Yes, as a matter of fact, initially in the early, you can say maybe 2004, 2005 के आसपास, between 2000 and 2005 के आसपास rather, there were a lot of people in the film industry who were directly connected. There were a lot of people who were directly connected and associated with the underworld, and they were largely, forming a part of the financial angle, meaning the finance part, the film finance.
Correct.
And they were the people who were calling the shots. तो फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में काफ़ी हद तक उनका इन्वॉल्वमेंट था उस ज़माने में 2005 तक।
Right.
तो उस टाइम पे सिचुएशंस आए थे जहाँ पे मुझे भी कॉल्स आए थे, एंड आई हैव हैंडल्ड देम वेरी वेल, एंड बिकॉज़
You have got threat calls from the underworld.
हमको नहीं थ्रेट करता कोई,
Yeah.
हमको कभी नहीं थ्रेट
वही
करता।
मैं सोच के मैंने थोड़ा मतलब
नहीं, नहीं, हमको नहीं थ्रेट करता है। हम मुझे कोई
आपके
क्लाइंट को थ्रेटन किया था उन्होंने और मुझसे भी बात हुई थी। बट ऑफ कोर्स इट इज़ ऑल अबाउट हैंडलिंग द सिचुएशन। So, see, because it's not that the police were not involved. Police were involved even then. Police have been involved at every stage. It's not that the police do not know about these things. As a matter of fact, police को पहले खबर होती है कई दफा
उनका
तो।
इंटेलिजेंस इतना
हाँ,
स्ट्रांग
उनका
होता है।
इंटेलिजेंस स्ट्रांग होता है। दे नो एग्जैक्टली कि क्या हो रहा है, कहाँ से हो रहा है। और ये जो अंडरवर्ल्ड के जो झगड़े भी होते हैं उसमें भी इन्वॉल्व तो होती है पुलिस का काफी हद तक। आप इतने सारे सीरीज देख रहे होंगे, शोज देख रहे होंगे, एंड देन यू सी पुलिस ऑफिसर्स बीइंग पनिश्ड आल्सो for crimes. There are so many police officers who have been now facing imprisonment because of taking law in their own hands or being a part of the larger racket. So उस जमाने में 2000 से लेकर 2005 तक बहुत ज्यादा था। सो उनका इन्वॉल्वमेंट काफी ज्यादा होता था उस जमाने में, एंड there were threads given to stars, there were threads given to producers, there were threads given to script writers कि भाई मेरी गर्लफ्रेंड के लिए स्क्रिप्ट लिखो और उसका मीटी रोल कर दो। एंड सो उस जमाने में प्रोड्यूसर से ज्यादा, आई मीन यू वर supposed to be more friendly to the underworld than the producer and the director of the film, because वो भी हो रहा था उस जमाने में, तो काफी ज्यादा हो रहा था।
It's shocking because of course we all know about it. It's like सबको पता है, but मुझे आप सर बताइए, आपने there are a couple of times when you mentioned the year 2005. 2005 में क्या हुआ या क्या बदला जिसके वजह से ये eradicate हुआ?
सी 2005 के बाद में ये जो एवोल्यूशन आया, ये जो इंटरनेट एंड दुनिया बहुत कनेक्ट हो गई,
Correct.
इंटेलिजेंस बेटर हो गया, एवरीथिंग वाज स्लोली एंड सडनली बीइंग अवेलेबल बिकॉज वी हैड सिस्टम्स इन प्लेस। सो थोड़ा घबराहट चालू हो गई। ओके, देन ट्रैकिंग डिवाइसेस बेटर हो गए, जीपीएस आ गया, ये आप समझ रहे हैं, तो ये मॉनिटरिंग बेटर हो गया। तो वो सिस्टम्स बेटर हो गए, मॉनिटरिंग बेटर हो गया, थोड़ा इंटेलिजेंस बेटर हो गया, विजिलेंस बेटर हो गया, सीसीटीवी कैमरास आ गए जो जमाने में इतने नहीं थे। सीसीटीवी कैमरास नहीं लगाते थे लोग, पता ही नहीं था क्या होता है। तो ये बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स लोगों ने सोचा कि यार, अंडरवर्ल्ड ने सोचा कि इंडस्ट्री को छोड़ के और भी तरीके पैसे कमाने के, तो उनका फोकस फिर दूसरी जगहों पे ज्यादा चले गया। और इंडस्ट्री में फिर एक तो इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन आ गया, इंडस्ट्री वाज रिकॉग्नाइज्ड एज एन इंडस्ट्री, then the banks started supporting the industry, finances आ गए, legitimate finance आना चालू हो गया, तो अंडरवर्ल्ड का पैसा और बाकी लोगों का ब्लैक पैसा आना बंद हो गया। तो इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन आने की वजह से भी काफी फर्क आ गया। तो पीपल ने, तो पहले क्या होता था इंडस्ट्री में, कबूतरबाजी आपने सुना होगा।
Yes, 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 of course.
Yeah, I would not name anybody, but a lot of people have been known for doing all of these things. So that is how they would generate money for the film. 2 टके पे, 3 टके पे पैसे उठाना, अंडरवर्ल्ड से पैसे लेना, कबूतरबाजी करना। पहले तो पिक्चरें ऐसी बनती थी बहुत सारी, एंड बाहर जो आउटडोर शूट्स होते थे उनके, वो उसी वजह से होता था, टू जनरेट मनी। तो सिस्टम्स बहुत अलग थे उस टाइम पे, सब्सिडी का कोई कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं था।
Yeah.
अभी तो गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडी देना भी चालू कर दी है, तो पूरा इंडस्ट्री चेंज हो गया, मतलब इंडस्ट्री इज बिकम वेरी डिफरेंट। और आज की इंडस्ट्री में जो 150, 200, 300 करोड़ की हिंदी पिक्चरें बन रही है और साउथ की पिक्चरें बन रही है, पहले तो 15 करोड़, 10 करोड़ भी बहुत होते थे।
Yeah.
तो आप समझ रहे हैं, तो इंडेक्स वैल्यू के हिसाब से अगर आप देखें, इनकम टैक्स के इंडेक्स वैल्यू के हिसाब से, तो रुपए में इतना चेंज नहीं आया है।
Correct.
मतलब ऐसे नहीं है कि उस टाइम की 10 करोड़ की पिक्चर आज की 300 करोड़ की हो गई, वैसा नहीं है।
It's not the valuation.
इट्स नॉट द वैल्यूएशन, इट्स द रीच। इट्स द इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन। बिकॉज पहले पिक्चरों की रीच बहुत लिमिटेड होती थी, थिएट्रिकल होती थी, उसके बाद दूरदर्शन पे दिखाई जाती थी। सैटेलाइट वैटेलाइट कोई कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं था। सो मतलब दूरदर्शन पे संडे को दिखाई जाती थी थिएटर के बाद में। तो काफी चेंजेस आए हैं। तो मतलब आई हैव बीन अ पार्ट ऑफ ऑल ऑफ दिस entire thing, the whole journey.
And that's why the question was so relevant to you. And you mentioned कि and ये सबको पता है कि a lot of actors were some forcefully, some maybe for the hunger of power. उनको लगता था कि अगर अंडरवर्ल्ड के साथ हम लोग जुड़े रहेंगे, so it's perhaps beneficial for our career. वो डर का माहौल बना के रखेंगे. बट जो भी है, so ये जो थ्रेट था मे बी टू प्रोड्यूसर्स और स्क्रिप्ट राइटर्स, ये लोग अंडरवर्ल्ड वाले डायरेक्टली करते थे या फिर वाया दीज पीपल फ्रॉम बॉलीवुड जो शायद उनके साथ क्लोज
See,
नेटवर्क रखते थे?
people in the industry always knew कि which star or which starlet is connected to the underworld. उनको पता होता था। और this was something which was silently understood, and so everybody knew who's acquainted and who's not acquainted. Of course, calls भी आते थे, ऐसे नहीं कि calls नहीं आते थे लोगों को, calls भी आते थे, मगर डायरेक्टली भी इंडस्ट्री के लोग इन्वॉल्व थे, डायरेक्टली भी लोग इन्वॉल्व थे, काफी हद तक इन्वॉल्व थे। और यही सच्चाई है इंडस्ट्री की। और उसके वजह से ही काफी सारी फिल्म्स डब्बे में भी चले जाती थी, बाद में कैन हो जाती थी और अटक जाती थी और तमाशे होते थे, बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम्स होते थे उस टाइम पे भी। अभी नहीं है, अब मच बेटर हो गई है।
Of course. This is a question that's very relevant. आप इतने सारे अलग अलग तरीके के cases involve you are handling, and while some are very civil and low key, some are also that high profile, right? Where perhaps there's an element of danger involved as well. But यू सेड कुछ देर पहले कि आपको कभी किसी ने डराया नहीं है, धमकाया नहीं है, बट आई हैव हैड इंस्टेंसेस वेयर से मे बी सम क्राइम जर्नलिस्ट और मे बी पीपल हु आर इनडायरेक्टली एसोसिएटेड या फिर किसी और के साथ जिनको थ्रेट किया गया है, उनके इर्द गिर्द जो लोग हैं उनको भी धमकाया जाता है या फिर उनको डराया जाता है। आपके साथ जब ऐसा, व्हेन यू हैड क्लाइंट्स मे बी फ्रॉम द फिल्म इंडस्ट्री हु वर गेटिंग थ्रेटन्ड बाय द अंडरवर्ल्ड, आपको कभी भी डर नहीं लगा कि यार बिकॉज आई एम एसोसिएटेड विद दिस पर्सन, I mean, they can try to harm me as well?
सी, दे नो दैट एज अ लॉयर वी डू आवर ड्यूटी। उनको पता है कि हम अपनी ड्यूटी कर रहे हैं, एंड हम कभी भी इस तरीके की हरकतें नहीं करते, किसी के साथ पर्सनल नहीं होते। So it's not that I'm personal, this personal vendetta or personal vengeance against any
Correct.
person or against anybody. So what we do is we draw our lines very systematically and we follow the procedure of law. Law के हिसाब से चलते हैं जो भी हैं. And as a matter of fact, I've been told by a lot of people that I was discussed also, by the underworld a lot of times, and people who were associated that time with the underworld, they only had told me. Of course, nobody will come out and tell them
Yes.
that they were associated, but I was told that they find me very interesting as a person, that I stand by what I believe in. And they had a lot of respect for me, and I said, that's good for me, then good for my work.
But brings me to the next question, and it's adjoined as well. Criminal cases, आप सब तरीके के cases handle करते हो. So कभी because of the goodwill that you created overall, तभी वो goodwill आप white collar लोगों के बीच में भी फैल रहा है, वो black collar वाले लोगों के बीच में भी फैल रहा है. So कभी भी ऐसा हुआ है where say maybe an underworld criminal और मे बी अ कॉन्विक्ट और बहुत ही कोई शायद खतरनाक कोई जो शायद हर तरीके से कानून के शिकंजे में फंसा हुआ है, बट he realizes that maybe that one person who can perhaps get me out of this trouble is Rizwan Siddiquee, and वो होप के साथ कभी आपको रीच आउट किया, बट ऑफ कोर्स ड्यू टू योर मॉरल वैल्यूज यू माइट हैव रिजेक्टेड, बट ऐसा कभी हुआ है where somebody from the underworld has reached out to you as a potential client?
Uh, well, people with criminal antecedents have, but वो अंडरवर्ल्ड से कितने कनेक्टेड थे मुझे नहीं पता। क्रिमिनल एंटीसीडेंट्स थे, एंड ऑफ कोर्स मर्डर में और इसमें उसमें उलझे हुए भी थे, बट समहाउ व्हेन आई डोंट फील दैट आई डोंट वांट टू यूज माय एक्सपर्टीज एंड माय एक्सपीरियंस इन सपोर्टिंग समथिंग व्हिच आई एम नॉट मॉरली इंक्लाइंड टू डू, टू तो अब मैं मना कर देता हूँ।
You get that vibe इतने सालों के एक्सपीरियंस के बाद या पहले से कि
वो तो
what is?
10 मिनट में पता चल जाता है कि सच्चाई कितनी है, हमको 10 मिनट से ज्यादा नहीं लगता। हमको इतना एक्सपीरियंस हो जाता है, रोज ये काम करते करते। सी, बिकॉज अनफॉर्चुनेटली जो पुलिस का काम है और हमारा काम में कोई ज्यादा फर्क नहीं है। मगर क्या पुलिस नौकरी पे है, उसकी नौकरी पे वो लिमिटेड पैसे कमाती है, तो उनका फोकस और होता है। हमारा फोकस वैसा नहीं है, बिकॉज हमारा कोई लिमिटेड पैसा नहीं होता, हमारा कोई लिमिटेड सैलरी नहीं है। सो नज़र दोनों की सेम होती है, पर पुलिस का दिमाग खत्म हो जाता है एक जगह पे और हमारा वहीं से शुरू होता है। बिकॉज जहाँ पे उनका दिमाग खत्म होता है, जहाँ पे एक आम आदमी का दिमाग खत्म होता है, वहां से तो हमारा शुरू होता है। बिकॉज उनको जो लॉ के प्रोसीजर्स है और आगे की चीजें कुछ उनको आइडिया नहीं होता, तो हमको आइडिया होता है। तो so we have to always assume three positions. One is the lawyer for your client, second is devil's advocate, lawyer of the opposite party, and third is the role of the judge. So जो most important role होता है जज का, because the judge is on the trial. Yes. The judge does not know इसमें किसमें सच्चाई और किसमें झूठ है, because ये जो दो पार्टी सामने खड़ी होती है, वो दोनों को पता है केस, ना उनके वकीलों को ढंग से मालूम है, ना जज को मालूम है। तो ट्रायल पे जज होता है और तो हमको तीनों पोजीशन देखना पड़ता है कि अगर मैं जज हूँ और मेरे सामने ये मुकदमा लड़ा जा रहा है, तो क्या देखूंगा जो फेवरेबल जजमेंट दूंगा। तो उसी उसी चीज को नजर में रखते हुए हम केस को डेवलप करते हैं एंड डेविल्स एडवोकेट भी बनते हैं। तो ये इट्स अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग जर्नी, बेसिकली द वे वी प्रेजेंट अ केसेस, द वे वी लुक एट द केसेस। सो इट इज नॉट दैट कि 4 सेक्शन आपने सीख लिए, 4 सेक्शन आपने बोल दिए और हो गया, या फिर 4300 एक्ट को लेके घूम रहे जेब में और कट कॉपी पेस्ट मार दिए हो गया, वैसे नहीं होता। इट्स अ कॉम्बिनेशन, इट्स बेसिकली permutation and combination of various laws which has to be presented differently in different courts. The same set of facts, for example, right. एक मियाँ बीवी का झगड़ा है, अभी एक वकील उसको डीवी के एंगल से देखे तो अलग दिखेगा, एक क्रूअल्टी डिवोर्स एंगल से देखे तो अलग दिखेगा, एक 498 ए क्रिमिनल एंगल से देखे तो अलग दिखेगा। द सेम सेट ऑफ फैक्ट्स, if I take it to 3 different courts, have to be presented differently. So I have to assume the role of 3 different judges कि उनको क्या देखना है। सो इट इज लाइक आप खाना पका रहे हैं, तो चाइनीज में भी खाना तो सेम ही होता है, बट सॉसेज अलग होते हैं, उसका प्रिपरेशन अलग होता है, इंग्रेडिएंट्स बेसिक वेजिटेबल्स तो सेम ही है, बट प्रिपरेशन अलग हो गया, तो इट इज सेम लाइक दैट। So it is little different how you deal with each case.
We're slowly and steadily coming to the last segment of the podcast. We still have 1 2 topics which are very important to be discussed. One is that, sir, you mentioned about the role of the judge, the prosecutor, the judiciary, right? ऑफन ऐसा कहा जाता है कि हिंदुस्तान में, इंडिया में, अगर तुम्हारे पास पैसा है तो तुम्हारे पास सब कुछ है। इवन इट्स अ वेरी कैजुअल स्टेटमेंट, कभी काफी फिल्मों में भी हम लोग ने देखा है कि यार तुम्हारे पास पैसा है तो द लॉ इज इन योर कंट्रोल, because of which there have been incidents in the past as well where people have heard ki, say, a certain prosecutor has been bribed, or he has accepted bribe without respecting the chair that he is in. And ऐसे situations के वजह से थोड़ा बहुत भी जो लोगों को कानून पे भरोसा है वो और उड़ जाता है, बिकॉज जो डिसीजन मेकर है अगर वो ही मैनिपुलेट हो रहा है तो फिर हाउ इज somebody going to trust? Tell me about your experience of seeing instances where perhaps in your mind, and given the examination of the situation, आपको पता है कि ये जो prosecutor है इसने 100% bribe लिया है, but because of the position, of course, you can't do anything about it. Have there been such instances like these in your career?
Well, on the criminal side, almost everybody who's on the wrong side of law will at some point in time would try to influence the public prosecutor. And see, because जो trial होता है, and if it is a trial which is conducted on the basis of an FIR, तो जो आप कंप्लेनेंट का खुद का वकील होता है, इट्स लाइक अ वॉच डॉग लॉयर, एंड ही इज ओनली सपोज टू असिस्ट द पीपी। सो ऐसे सिचुएशन में बहुत ज्यादा होता है, मैंने नहीं है कि ऐसा नहीं है कि मैंने नहीं देखा है, मैंने बहुत देखा है। पर अभी ये सब चीजों को ध्यान में रख के कि कानून इतने सारे हैं, सिचुएशंस ऐसे हैं, फॉरगेट द पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर, आई विल देयर आर वेरियस स्मॉलर कोर्ट्स, जहाँ पे डिसीशंस, सी बिकॉज लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर मैं एक कोर्ट में 5 साल से जा रहा हूँ और मैं एग्जांपल देख रहा हूँ कि कैसे डिसीजन दिए जाते हैं। अभी एक सिंपल सा एक चीज बताता हूँ आपको, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल एक 156(3) एक सेक्शन है, जब पुलिस अगर आपका केस रजिस्टर नहीं करती है, तो आपको एक 154(1) का कंप्लायंस करना पड़ता है सीनियर इंस्पेक्टर को देके आपका कंप्लेंट। उसके बाद 15 दिन के बाद आपको डीसीपी, या उसको सुप्रिंटेंडेंट ऑफ पुलिस भी बोलते हैं, उसमें 154(3) में एस्केलेट करना पड़ता है वहां पे, और लास्ट में 30 डेज के बाद में आपको जाना पड़ता है मजिस्ट्रेट के पास। दैट इज कॉल्ड 156(3). सो अगर एक जज साहब हैं और उनके पास 156(3) का पूरा भंडार है, पूरा मतलब समझिए 300 केसेस पड़े हुए हैं, सडनली दो केसेस जो लाइन तोड़ के आगे निकल जाते हैं, एंड और वो केस जो लाइन तोड़ के आगे निकलते हैं, मेरिट्स भी देखें अगर वो केस का, तो मेरिट्स पे वो केस को लाइन तो तोड़ना दूर की बात है, वो केस में एफआईआर होता ही नहीं है। तो ऐसे सिचुएशंस भी हमने देखा है, बट फॉर्चुनेटली हाई कोर्ट्स protect us. So high courts are also aware of such situations. So these are something which are not told openly. But yes, we do experience. And as a matter of fact, I am so known in those kind of courts. So as a matter of fact, when situations like these, arise, and if I have to face any kind of a magistrate or a small judge there, I mean the lowest court judge there, so they know that people like me are watching, and that we may take it up, at some point in the fear element is there. So to have a clean judiciary, forget me, the retired Chief Justice of India has given an interview where he says judges don't fall from the heaven. So he is talking about judges being influenced, judges being bribed. And as a Chief Justice of India, if he's talking like this, and he's not talking about smaller judges, he's talking about judges all across. So what more do I say as an officer of the court? But ये ध्यान में रख के चलना है कि ये सब होता है, बट क्या आपको उसका पार्ट बनना है कि नहीं बनना है, वो आपके हाथ में है। अगर आप मुझे ये क्वेश्चन पूछें कि बेगर उसका पार्ट बने हुए आप जस्टिस डिलीवर कर सकते हैं, तो मैं बोलता हूँ फास्टर कर सकते हैं और बेटर कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि आपने अगर समझिए इस तरीके की हरकत भी की, तो क्या वो आपका फर्स्ट एंड द लास्ट जज है? नहीं, वो जज ऊपर जाएगा, वो मैटर ऊपर जाएगा। कहाँ तक करोगे आप ये सब चीजें? कहाँ तक करोगे? तो मेरे जैसा बंदा तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक ले जाएगा आपको। तो हमको फर्क नहीं पड़ता इससे, बट हाँ थोड़ा पेशेंस रखना पड़ता है, बिकॉज या इट गोज ऑन अगेन, तो टाइम थोड़ा सा वेस्ट होता है इसमें, तो उससे ज्यादा और कुछ नहीं। ऐसे नहीं कि आपने कुछ कर दिया पैसे ज्यादा होने की वजह से तो आप जीत गए, ऐसे नहीं होता।
एंड आई एम श्योर दिस इज गोना बी अ रेस्पाइट फैक्टर फॉर मेनी, जिनको शायद लगता था कि यार ऐसे ही मतलब ऐसे हवा में नहीं होता, एंड व्हेन एक्सपीरियंस पीपल लाइक सर से थिंग्स अबाउट दिस, देन इट मेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ डिफरेंस. Sir, the last perhaps very relevant topic that I want to discuss would be the situation of harassment for female. Like, there are of course laws which are protecting them. अगर उनके साथ सच्ची में ऐसा होता है, but then of course the person, the culprit, the accused, if he is proven guilty, needs to be punished, and he will be punished. But of course there are so many situations which we see जहाँ पे maybe the women, they manipulate the law which is in their favor to kind of falsely accuse a male counterpart, just to trouble them or harass them. ऐसे situations भी हमने बहुत देखे हैं, right now. uh, as a country, our laws perhaps in this area support women more, and I'm not against that at all. But at the same time, I also feel that अगर ऐसे fake cases होते हैं लड़कों के ऊपर, then उनको भी प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए there should be certain things which should be known to all, so that even the girls out there, अगर वो लोग सोच रहे हैं कि ऐसा फेक केस हम लोग क्रिएट करके बच सकते हैं, सो वो नहीं है. सो ऐसे सिचुएशन पे लड़कों को क्या ध्यान में रखना चाहिए? ऑफ कोर्स द पीपल हु आर जेन्युइनली गिल्टी, दे नीड टू बी पनिश्ड, एंड उनके उनमें वो डर रहना चाहिए. बट से फॉर एग्जांपल अ गर्ल थ्रेट्स कि यार तू मेरे साथ ये चीज नहीं कर, तेरे तेरे को मैं फॉल्स रेप केस में फंसा दूंगी. सो द गाय इज इमीडिएटली शैटर्ड, ही डजंट नो हाउ टू रिएक्ट. वो हाउ डज समबडी रिस्पॉन्ड और रिएक्ट टू सच सिचुएशंस?
सी रेप अगर आप देखेंगे को उसको बहुत गौर से, सो एनीथिंग विच इज कंसेंशुअल, and there are very limited case laws जहाँ पे there was a promise made to marry, and there was sexual intercourse on the basis of promise, जहाँ पे judges ने बोला है कि yes this would amount to rape because you have obtained the consent through fraud. So अगर आपने लड़की को ये बोला कि भाई मेरी आपके साथ शादी होने वाली, on the basis of this you obtain her consent, then it would still amount to rape.
बट हाउ डज इट एस्टैब्लिश दैट कम्युनिकेशन? बिकॉज ये कोई डॉक्यूमेंट तो नहीं रहता.
सो
इट्स अ वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन.
आजकल के लोग इतने होशियार हो गए हैं कि सारा व्हाट्सएप पे चैट्स वैट्स और सब ये लोग क्रिएट करना चालू कर दिए हैं। डर इतना बैठा हुआ है लोगों के दिमाग में कि जैसे मेरे पास ही बहुत सारे केसेस आते हैं यंग कपल्स के, एंड वेयर आफ्टर अ ब्रेकअप द बॉय इज थ्रेटन्ड बाय द गर्ल, एंड देन दे स्टार्ट टॉकिंग टू मी, एंड देन दे स्टार्ट शोइंग मी द एविडेंस He said, before meeting you only have, got this evidence and got that evidence. So I look at them and I said, यार आप तो already expert लग रहे हो सब चीजों में, तो आपको डर किस चीज का है? So today's day and time, I think everybody is smart now. So if it is a genuine case where both were consenting adults and in the course of the relationship they have sexual intercourse, then there's no case of rape. There cannot be a case of rape if there was never a promise of marriage. Now the burden, the basically, if the girl files a false case, for example, and she makes out a case of rape and she defames the boy just because she's got protection under law, because her name will not come out and the media will not take her name out because she's a victim of a sexual case, and the boy's name comes out everywhere, he can actually prosecute her for defamation. He can also seek prosecution by getting a B summary filed by the police. So if there's a B summary, so there's something called FIR, which you know of. There is something called investigation report. Yes. The name given is charge sheet. Right. Now, what is a charge sheet? A charge sheet is a charge sheet where the case is found to be true. If the case is not found to be true, then there is A summary report, B summary report, and C summary report. Now, the most relevant report would be B summary report. So, where there is a B summary report, you can actually seek prosecution of the complainant because she has filed something which you were not really guilty of, and you had to face trial by media, and you had to lose your face value, your name, your respect, and so on and so forth. So therefore, this is actually two-edged sword. So even a girl, unless until she has got a really good case, a strong case, and she should not go all out and file false cases if she does not have a good case on merits. And if the boy has a good case and he genuinely knows and he believes that he is not promised and he's not done anything wrong, and it was a simple relationship where two consenting adults came together and they got into a sexual relationship, then he does not need to fear anything. There's nothing to fear. So it's all about presenting the case systematically in the courts.
You mentioned about people having it in WhatsApp chats. ऐसा कहा जाता है, and I keep hearing कि WhatsApp chats are not admissible in court. But do these screenshots etc. do they matter?
65B was introduced in Information Technology Act. It is a particular section under which you can give an affidavit on oath. That is called the 65B certificate, yeah. And you can actually submit your phone as and when required. So these kind of submissions made to the court are reliable. So the chats are reliable.
So everything on that phone, be it WhatsApp, SMS, everything that is admissible in court.
So basically, we see, under the criminal law, the accused is always held at a higher pedestal. Yeah. The accused has always got a lot of, you can say, benefits. So he is not guilty till proven guilty. So there are various sections under the Criminal Procedure Code which allow the accused to give his side of the story. And he is allowed to examine, cross-examine witnesses, recall witnesses. So it's all a question of trial. So if you have an expert trial lawyer, then there's no case of lose. There's no way that you can lose the case.
So last question before I kind of end this conversation would be that in India हम लोग अक्सर देखते हैं हालत of the Indian jails and everything. I did a podcast with this actor who was I don't know. I don't want to get into the part whether it was falsely framed or whatever, but he had spent certain amount of time in jail and he had come out properly legally. सब उसके बाद we had done a podcast. So he explained to me the condition of a jail. I think I don't remember. It's the same jail where I think Aryan Khan was also taken. So I'm forgetting the name of the jail. It's somewhere in the South Bombay. But जो भी है, so he explained to me the condition of the jail where like एक सेल के अंदर शायद 40-50 लोग सो रहे हैं. There's no proper hygiene. Food condition is pathetic. Now as far as a human is concerned, I mean convicts हो, accused हो, जो भी हो, there are certain basic things that perhaps every individual should be getting, right? वहाँ पे I don't really resonate with the condition of jails with that ideology. Is it the same in every jail in the country, and is there a way we can perhaps, or should we? I personally feel we should, but But as somebody who's a practicing lawyer, do you feel the condition of jails in India should improve?
Well, to begin with, let me tell you that almost 60 to 70% of the jails in the country were made during British time, and they were never meant to accommodate the number of people that we have inside the jail. These are called inmates. Secondly, the system, the judicial system, has become so slow because of the innumerable you can say number of cases coming to the court and not being decided on, or maybe the bail conditions not met. So a lot of people in the jail are there merely because they're not able to meet bail conditions, or their matters are not being heard. And so in short, the jails are overcrowded, you can say by almost 10x, 10x, 10 times. So I mean, this is absolutely inhumane, and there's something that needs to be done, about this. Not only with the
Who needs to
condition,
do this? Who can take that
the
initiative?
basically this is something that the government needs to think of. This is something that the government needs to think of, and as a matter of fact, the government needs to, because there is something called reforms.
Right.
We talk about social reforms. We talk about other ways of reforming people. There are international covenants that we have entered into. There are international treaties that we have entered into. There are, there's human angle that we need to look into. We have established bodies, and human rights came into force, and we have a proper act to that effect. But the unfortunate part is that what you see in the books is not what you get actually. So a law which can be easily read, that cannot be easily interpreted in the courts and to get the justice. So there's a very, very time consuming job, for you to actually meet the ends of justice. And because of this, the conditions of the jails and the whole way the system works is really bad. The Supreme Court is now working towards it. As a matter of fact, there's some judgment which has come up which I've not read, but I believe it's to do with immediate release of the person once you get the orders from the court. Because even after you get the release orders from the court, sometimes they take 4 days to release.
हाँ,
You
फिर वो
see,
जेल बंद होता है या कोर्ट बंद होता है कुछ ना कुछ
टाइमिंग होता है एंड देन सिस्टमैटिक 3-4 दिन उसमें भी लगा देते हैं कभी कभी. सो है बहुत सारा. सो पीपल नीड टू कम आउट ऑफ द कंफर्ट जोन एंड स्टार्ट वर्किंग टुवर्ड्स दिस, and to do something at least to do with their own states to begin with.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, मैं ही इस पे कुछ करने वाला हूँ, आपको दिखेगा शायद जल्द से कुछ करते हुए.
I'm really hopeful, and
Yeah.
of course we can have a conversation on that later as well.
जी.
Whenever that happens, and I'll be really happy. So thank you so much. We've been planning this for the longest time, and finally the schedules are matched. And what I'm really glad about is that, normally, like, आप लोग को पता है कि normally my content is particularly centric to people who cater to entertainment. But these kind of conversations are the ones that bear results for everybody. जो शायद that average Indian जिसको शायद कानून का book पढ़ने का time नहीं है, but the things that he should know or she should know, these are the conversations that really matter. We spoke about a lot of I think vital aspects, starting from rape, fake rape cases, to I think the basic rights that you should know as a commuter, uh, to your rights as a consulting adult and everything. uh, I think it was a very enriching conversation, and I have to thank you, sir, for that. And whoever has seen that, and if you have kind of gained even 2% of knowledge about, of course, like sir said, कितने सारे sections है, सबको तो सब कुछ पता नहीं हो सकता, but अगर 2% भी अगर आपका knowledge बढ़ा है about the basic rights that every Indian should know, then I believe that the purpose of this conversation and podcast is successful, and it's only successful because of him. Thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure. Thank you, guys. That's a wrap on the Sunny G Show by Rohit Consulting Firm. This is your host, Shubhajit, with the one and only Rizwan sir. And yeah, I mean, stay tuned for many more interesting conversations about different aspects of life. And I'm sure you will be thrilled. Thank you so much. God bless. Take care. Stay safe. And thank you.